Hi, I'm Cynthia Bowker, and this is the final project for the Faith and Philosophical Inquiry class that I'm part of. That's PHI 110RS. And today I'm going to be interviewing Deacon Eric McCoy, and I'm going to now ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are and what is your position with the organization.
Okay. Cindy said, my name is Deacon Eric McCoy. I am a deacon with the Diocese of Orlando, presently serving in the St. John the Baptist Parish in Dunellen. And how I came to become a deacon, well, it was 6 years study at St. Charles Borromeo Seminary in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. At the request of my pastor and his urging, I signed the paperwork and found myself down at the seminary undergoing interviews, and I passed a 6-hour psychological examination, and the process began. And approximately 6 years later, I was ordained a permanent deacon on June 1st, 1997. So that's...
Okay. Well, you pretty much covered this one. What are the steps that led to your decision, which is great. Now, going on more of a personal note, were there any personal things, that did you feel led and driven?
Well, when my pastor had suggested that I would make a good deacon, I wasn't sure that I didn't even know what a deacon was at the time. So I enlisted the help of a saint, St. John Newman. And we have a statue of St. John Newman in our church, and I put a little note under his statue, and I prayed to him to give me guidance, and if this is what God wanted for me, then I would go through with it. And sure enough, St. John Newman answered my prayer in a way that I'd never imagined, and I just went on with the process. And every wall that came up during the 6 years, it magically just disappeared, just collapsed, and so I knew it was God's will for me to be his deacon.
Awesome, that's great. Well, we're going to discuss St. Anselm. I cannot pronounce that. On its ontological argument today, and what I would do is give you briefly an outline of it.
Okay.
He states that nothing can be greater than God. No one can imagine or think or dream of what God is. He's too great. He's the ultimate. And the other thing that he states is to have an understanding of God is to know that God is real. I mean, to have that understanding.
Absolutely.
That's the nuts and bolts of it. What is your understanding of the argument, and what does it mean to you?
Okay, as I understand St. Anselm's argument, his ontological argument, he is saying that there is no being that can be greater, no other being that can be greater or can be conceived than this being that we call God. And the argument goes on to say that God exists, or this being greater, this being that which is no greater, no other being can be greater than him, can exist in our mind. Okay, and the argument concedes that does this being exist in our mind only, alone, or can this being exist in the mind and in reality? And if we can conceive of this being greater than anything that we possibly know in existence, if we can conceive this in our mind, I'm of the opinion that I believe that anything that can be dreamed in the mind or conceived in the mind can become a reality. And we've proven that over and over throughout history. For example, rocket ships going to the moon, they were conceived in somebody's mind at one time and they became a reality. So, I believe that yes, this being greater than ourselves, greater than anything that we possibly can conceive, is in our mind, and it is also a reality.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Do you find it difficult when explaining what having an understanding of God means to someone who isn't necessarily a believer in God? Or anybody in general, that understanding?
Yeah, Cindy, because I'll tell you why. The average person that I deal with, they're not college graduates, and many of them are not even high school graduates. So to try and explain to them an argument, an ontological argument like St. Anselm does here, or even this concept, is a little tough. We have to bring it down into their to their level, so to speak. And sometimes it is a little difficult, but I usually say, well, you know, if you want to point to the existence of God, just look at everything around you. Man did not create that, and it has a certain structure to it. Okay, that some other intelligence much greater than ourselves had to put together, and they had to create that. And so this is my way of explaining it to a person without someone who doesn't have a college degree.
Right. Okay. All right, and finally, this is the last one. What do you think he's trying to get across with the following quote? So then, why did the fool say in his heart there is no God, when it is so evident to the rational mind that you, among all beings, exist most greatly? Why indeed, except because he is stupid and a fool?
Yeah, I would say a fool, definitely a fool, because once again, I would say to a person or the atheist, I cannot, in my mind, understand how anybody can be an atheist and not believe in a supreme being, because I would say to them, look at a tree. Man certainly didn't create a tree, and they would come back with the argument and say, well, that was produced from a seed, it grew from a seed. And then I would say, well, who produced that seed? And then we would go all the way down until there's got to be, once again, there's got to be an intelligence, something greater than ourselves that put all this together. And Cindy, I was reading an article recently where they're discovering in Australia, for example, new species of fish that they never even knew existed before, and new animals that are being discovered also in the forest. And so this tells me that God is not finished creating. He's still creating even to this day, as we are here. He's still creating the world. Now, I believe that as certain species, they go by the wayside and they disappear, they become extinct. I think that God replaces them with new species, and so therefore He's still creating.
Okay, well that concludes our interview, and I want to thank you very much
Oh, you're quite welcome.
for coming and doing
Yeah.
this for me today, and that will be the end.